Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about mental health. This is my second video and I hope you guys like and subscribe because I will be talking more about mental health and other things in the future. So, first things first, I have mental health issues sometimes, like all of us. We all have issues every once in a while. It's not something that we're all or some of us are immune to. And the reason why I'm talking about this right now is I have a friend. He's 6 years younger than me, and he is just having a lot of trouble right now. He's depressed, and sometimes he's manic too. He has bipolar disorder, just like me, and he's just going through a lot right now. He's been in the foster care system, and I don't know. I truly admire him. He's done so much already, and he just doesn't see how great his life is and how much he's achieved. And that's what depression is. It kind of like shows you something about your life, and it shows you in a completely different light. Like, it has this dark lens over it. You might think it's terrible, but really everyone else sees it as an achievement, and you never really know what your achievements are because you just don't see yourself that way. You think you're a bad person or not good enough or a failure, and it just compounds, and everything about your life just becomes worse and worse because you think you're a failure, and then you start believing you're going to fail, and then you think you failed, and then you might like do worse than you think you will because you think you're already failing. And it's just a big thing. And he loves to write, and he thinks all of his projects are failures. He said he already ripped a bunch of them, and he says he only has one work in progress and other failures. And um basically he doesn't believe in his writing skill, which is really sad because he can write so much better than I could when I was 14. And I just really hope he makes it like big with writing, just so he could look back and see all his what he called failures and see them as more um, projects that helped him to get to where he was. Because I don't know, I think it's important for him to get there so that he sees that everything he did in his entire life and everything he went through and everything he suffered through was for a good reason. Because um when I look back at my life when I was 14, I definitely would not have said that I'm thankful to be bipolar, but I am now. It's because it's taught me a lot of things about life in general. It's giving me different perspectives, and it's not like I'm listening to other people talk about their lives. It was all me. I've been manic, I've been hypermanic, I've been hypomanic, I've been depressed, I've been depressed for like an entire summer or even a year. And it's just, it's not it's not fun, of course, but you learn a lot about yourself, and you reflect on other life experiences, and you learn. And when you're not depressed anymore, kind of bounce out of that, everything is great, and you're a better person because you reflected back on all the things you regretted and things you hated that you did when you were depressed. So I wouldn't say that being bipolar has really hindered me when I look back, but it definitely did make things a lot harder in school, and it still does sometimes. But like, when I first found out I was bipolar after 6th grade, like, middle school was not a fun time. 6th grade was already terrible. I got in trouble all the time, and I had got suspended for doing things that I didn't even know that I was doing, and I didn't know why I was doing it. And that can happen a lot when you're manic or hypermanic. You just do things and you don't know why, and then you try to explain it later, but you really can't. You just do things and you know what you did and perhaps what you were thinking, but there's no logical explanation. And so I guess what I'm really going to get down into in this video is how to try to help someone with mental health issues, or who are depressed, or anything really, because a lot of us don't know what to do, and we always are like, do I say like it'll get better, because it's not going to get better for them soon because of the way they're thinking, or you don't want to make them feel that you don't understand. So first things first, yeah, you don't say, oh, things will be better tomorrow, because likely things won't be that much better tomorrow, and they'll be like, oh, you're lying, I already know it won't be better tomorrow, and they're probably right. But what you gotta say is, maybe tomorrow will be a little better than today, because it's true. You gotta take one day at a time. You gotta, like, I don't know, you gotta kind of make them look forward to something that they don't know will be bad or good. Like, you don't know what tomorrow will hold. It could be better, it could be worse, but you gotta tell them you can hope it'll be better tomorrow. Another thing is telling them to list 3 things that they're grateful for every morning, and maybe even every night. It helps like change the mindset, like, oh, I have things in life that I am thankful for. It's not all bad. So I've been telling my 14-year-old friend this, and it's definitely helped him a little bit. He's still going through the rough patch, but I believe it's getting better, and he could definitely get out of it within like a few weeks or a month. Um Next thing, you don't want to tell the person you completely understand what they're going through, because you don't. Even if you have been somewhere like it before, you don't know exactly what they're feeling. Even if they try to tell you, you still won't know. So don't say, oh, I know what you're talking about. Like, don't say that. You can say, I can relate. I've been in this situation before. I know it must be hard. But don't say you know exactly how they feel, because they will feel like, no, you don't. You're a terrible person now because you think you know what I'm feeling and you don't. And I don't like it when you say that. I've had people say that to me before, and I'm just like, no, you don't. But, but, you want to show your support, but not tell them that you know something. And don't tell them you know what's best for them either. You don't want to say, oh, you should do this because it'll work, because they might have already tried it and it might have not already worked, and then they'll kind of just dismiss you as another one of those people that think they know what they're talking about, but really they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to them. So you always have to just kind of be there for them. You don't really want to be too pushy about it, because they won't tell you when you're not helping. They'll just be like, oh, thank you, or yeah, okay. Or they might tell you, but not always. And you kind of will just think you're helping them, but you're really not. So you gotta kind of take that feedback and kind of like read into every little thing that they're saying or messaging you, just so that you know what you should do next and how to help them, because it's a hard thing. You can't just say anything to someone and have it really help them and dig deep and get to the root of the problem, because like, I don't know, depression is a lot. And we all know that being depressed couldn't be fun, and isn't fun, especially if you've been there before, whether it be for a day or a week or a month or even a year or many years. Depression is not fun. And I know it sounds terrible when I say this, but there's a reason for everything that we feel. I've heard this actually on a TED Talk. There's a purpose for every emotion except shame. So I don't know what the big purpose of depression is, but I'm sure there is some biological explanation for why we feel depressed. And it probably says a lot about our life and where we're at and where we want to go and where we are and where we really plan on going in the future, I guess, if I didn't already say that in other words. But you it's kind of like this readjusting period where you kind of reflect on what you did, what you want to do, what you can't do, or what you don't have yet. And it's kind of like, well, this is what I have to do, but I don't know if I can do it. And then when you're like stepping out of depression, you know what you have to do. And you're like, maybe I could do that. And then you go and do it. And it turns out to be this big, great thing. But that's assuming you don't let this depression overrun you and kind of like run your life. You need to learn how to like take care of yourself first. You need to know how to do the basic things like eat, sleep, and what's the other one? Eat, sleep, I don't know, just personal care, I guess. Like things that you would do every day normally, like wash up, get out of bed, do this, and like go outside for a walk maybe. And even if you feel like staying in bed all day, don't do that. Don't stay in bed because that feeds into the depression. You don't want to do anything that you really feel like doing when you're depressed, because when you feel like sleeping or you feel like staying in bed or you feel like not getting out, that's what makes it worse. You got to do the opposite. It's called OEA and something, I don't remember what it's called, but I learned it at one of my outpatient therapies. It's basically doing the opposite of an urge. So if you're depressed, you feel like doing nothing, you feel like staying inside, you got to go out and do something. You got to get up and like one step at a time, you can do it. And things will get better slowly. Even if you really hate it, just go out for like a few minutes, an hour, or even just like step outside and breathe a little bit of fresh air and then walk back inside. Everything helps. You don't want to stay in bed. That's the worst you could do. Another thing is wise mind, and that's basically finding the balance between like your brain and your heart and your emotions and your logic. Like you gotta bring them together and find that middle piece. If it was a Venn diagram, it'd be like this, and there's your emotions and you got your logic, and you have to find that little part in the middle where you have both, and that is wise mind. You, when you're depressed, your emotions are kind of running over your brain. You're not really thinking about what you're feeling, and you might think it's irrational, but you can't help but think it or feel it. And so you have to change part of your thinking so that you're thinking more positive, even if your heart doesn't believe it. And soon it'll come together and your heart will start believing what your brain did. And you can always change what your brain thinks, but it's hard to change what you feel. But you got to start with what you think first. And so that's another thing. Another big thing is self-soothing. When you're depressed, you kind of just lie there and you're all tense and you kind of just you hate life basically, and you can go self-soothe, meaning you kind of like you can go take a hot shower, you can listen to some peaceful music, you can put some incense in your room, light a candle, anything that will soothe one of your sense, or yeah, what you think or see or feel, or one of your senses, basically one of your five senses. You can like do warm baths, you can splash your water with cold face, and that's another thing. You can change the temperature of your body. Whether you're really upset or really depressed, you can like throw water in your face, whether it be hot or cold, and it'll help, I guess. And oh, here it is. Seeds. That's what it is. Sleep, exercise, eating, doctor's suggestions and advisements, so take your medicines and stuff. And then like S meaning self-care, like be spiritual or staying sober. That is what I learned there. That is one of the most basic things you have to get down when you're feeling really depressed. You have to take care of all those things first before you can even start to think about moving on to somewhere else or something else. You can also think of some relaxing thing to do that doesn't take a lot of energy. I've done coloring in this like relaxing adult coloring book, and it's great because I have these nice pens. Actually, they're right here. I have more than this, but they are nice, some like ballpoint pens, and they're in color, and I like to color sometimes. And yeah, and I write in a journal. I crochet, I draw, I run sometimes, although I don't especially like running alone. Sometimes I run with a friend, or if I'm really upset, I can run a great mile time. I'm not even going to lie about that. You can get some of your anger or some of your racing thoughts out when you exercise because you're not doing anything else. You can think about whatever you want to think about, and it kind of helps the brain run while you're running your body energy out. And when you're coming back to your bed and feeling bad again, your body is a little bit more relaxed because you've exercised, it's not as tense, and your brain has already processed a lot of things while you've been running. So maybe your brain has also calmed down a little bit. So that's why exercise is so helpful. And of course, sleep is important because your brain thinks things that is bad for you when you don't have enough sleep, and it kind of gets out of hand. So sleep is also important, and eating is the same thing. If you can't eat, you can't sleep, and it's hard to exercise. So all of those things tied together. And if you're not taking your meds as is prescribed, if you have a doctor, everything also blows out of control, and you need to be on top of it, because even if you might be like ashamed or embarrassed that you're taking meds and that you have to, it's really only for yourself in the end. And if you let other people, or what you think other people may think, get in the way of that, it will definitely affect you in bad ways, and you'll just be worse off, and you might need more meds. And that's a big thing that I had to deal with, like getting over of being ashamed of taking the medications that I was. And it wasn't until like recently that I was really like, okay, I need this and it'll help me, and I won't be taking it forever, and it'll change. And it really did help me see things. And I once took myself off meds like gradually by myself without anybody knowing, and it was okay at first, but I could feel it getting out of hand, and it got worse and worse and worse, and eventually blew out of proportion. Like, a lot of things happened that fall, but it was bad. Another time, my doctor had taken me off medications, and I didn't know I was supposed to get another doctor right away. So I went to college without it, and a lot of things happened there too. So basically what I learned from those two experiences was I can't live right now properly without medication, and I really do need some little extra help. Of course, it doesn't do everything. Medication never does everything. You have to make sure you're thinking the right way and behaving the right way, so that it all ties together. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's basically changing the way you think so you can change the way you feel, and change the things you do so you can change everything else. And taking medication is a big part of being able to do that in the first place. So it comes together, and all your health basically is tied around your thinking, your behaving, and your medication. So those are the three big things that you should focus on, and I will post some uh, mental health resources on the comments below, and you guys can go read that.